So, Kim, let's take up this homeless issue first. The Supreme Court hearing an appeal on a ruling by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which said that what Grants Pass, Oregon, a city, did in trying to clean up homeless encampments was a violation of the Eighth Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment. How did the oral argument go at the court?
Well, there were basically two things, I think, Paul, that the justices were focused on. One was obviously this question of the Eighth Amendment. And one of the points that really came out here is that traditionally we have always viewed the Eighth Amendment ban on cruel and unusual punishment as exactly that, a question of punishments, whereas this instead seems to be a discussion of entitlements, meaning if a state does not have requisite beds to put all the homeless people in their area in, do they have an obligation to actually leave them, allow them to camp and engage in vagrancy at will? The justices seem to be pretty skeptical of that idea. But the other point that I think that came up, which was also very good, was more about judicial modesty, pointing out that any local and state leaders have a lot of competing demands for where they put their money. And as Justice Roberts said, really are the 9 of us on this court going to make a decision that Grants Pass has an obligation to make more homeless beds rather than to fix, for instance, a lead pipe issue or put more money into its health care priorities? And so I think both of those issues were at play in the court.
Interesting divide among Democrats in this case, Dan, with California politicians, the San Francisco mayor, even the governor's office, I think, weighed in support of Grants Pass regulation or trying to clean up homeless encampments. But New York and Illinois Democrats saying, no, there's essentially a right to vagrancy.
Yeah, that's right. And which is to say, this is primarily an argument about progressive political policy and public policy. Why are these people out on the street living in these tent encampments? It's because many of them are mentally ill. They were deinstitutionalized back in the 1970s and 1980s with the promise that there would be care for them in community-based services. That has failed. That has totally failed, and now these people are unmedicated on the streets. And secondly, the problem of drug addiction, the prevalence of illicit drugs on the streets of these cities. Progressives have promoted those kinds of policies for decades, and now the problems have become unsolvable. And the Ninth Circuit is essentially arguing that the solution is to simply build more housing. Well, housing shortage is one of the biggest problems in California, in those western states right now. And it's telling that the governments, Democratic governments in California, are saying, we do not have the tools at the moment to solve this problem. We need the authority to clean up the streets right now.